And we are live. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I just want to start the show off with just a super congratulations to the team that has put out this Convex Flat Earth documentary.
Woohoo!
Yeah, we're thankful that they were able to
flat.
put out actual scientific experiments that are logical, demonstrating the Earth's flatness, not sphericity. And I'm going to congratulate them partially for some of the decisions that they've made. We're going to synthetically prove to you empirically tonight that the map that me and Jason have been showing you for over a year has now been witnessed by a completely different group of people that aren't on YouTube, that aren't in the YouTube community. They just joined the YouTube community and they were smart enough to go with the actual Hotine oblique Mercator projection that Jason and I we've been sharing with the world for over 12 months now. And I just want to say again, thank you to that entire team. Thank you for your resilience and your actual truth search that you didn't hold back. Now I want to introduce the host with the most, Flat Earth, the original Awake Souls, Jason Laufenberg.
Thanks,
how you doing?
Doing well. So everybody, guess how my day started out? I'm just like starting to come conscious, and then all of a sudden, they used our map! They used our map! They used our map!
Well, they did.
They did.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting for me because, I went into the documentary with an open mind, like I try to do. I try to always listen to everybody and every bit of information skeptically. That's how we do this in the truth movement, the true truth seekers. And, as soon as I seen that map, well, I already saw it before the documentary on the trailers, but I saw that how they were using it, and it's going to be interesting to see how we're able to edify and to add on tonight, Jason. So what were your first impressions with the documentary?
Well, actually, I'm about halfway through it. I saw the different experiments that they planned on doing, and then I was working on different projects today, and you had watched it, and you told me that all the experiments checked out. It's flat, and you've got the critical eye, like I do. But so I trust you. You went through it, and of course we can all double check and triple check that these were legitimate experiments and that nothing was false, no false evidence. But, for a lot of us, we know Earth is flat for a long time now, but now we have something that we can turn to and serve it up and say, here you go. Here is actual experiments that have been done. Ronnie and I, we're happy to do one. It was our idea to do a water level test, which I still think is a great experiment. But we don't need to do it because we have this, and we can just take this and serve it up and be like, yes, it is empirical evidence that Earth is flat. That's huge. We've needed that for a long time on flat Earth.
Yeah, well, and not just one piece of evidence, right? They have multiple experiments that they conducted. They did it with professional. I really like the way that they edited the videos together. I like the way that they. There's one experiment we're going to get to is. So the declination of the Earth, of the spherical supposed Earth, is 60 miles, half a degree. So what they did was they measured two buildings geodetically, and they got the exact bottom and the exact top of each of these buildings, and then they measured the distance, to see if so, over 30. What did it end up being? It was 31 or 32 degrees should have been the tilt, right? So the top measurement should have been quite a large amount bigger. We're going to get to that, and that was an experiment that I never thought of.
Let's see here. We've got a comment from Der Dorter. There is no evidence for anything in that so-called documentary. This type of shillery and trollery, it's not going to fly here. But there is evidence.
Yeah, we're going to remove that. I don't know if we need to block the person, but we'll remove it. Yeah, we're going to get into that. Should we get into that? Well, did you want to talk a little bit about how it's on an asteroid?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I've seen as an issue since they start putting the teasers out for this documentary is, this floating on an asteroid situation. And there we have a problem. We have a bunch of problems. In fact, there's probably a number of people in the chat here that could list off a ton of different problems with it. Anyway, I guess, do you want to start running through some of the problems that we see with being on an asteroid?
Well, we could deal with that real quick. Well, one thing I did want to mention is, so the tallest mountains on Earth are Mount Everest, correct? It's roughly 8 miles above of sea level, and the tallest valley would be the Marianas Trench, and it's about 8 miles down. So if they wanted to put us on an asteroid, they should have had it 8 miles below and 8 miles above. In my opinion, that is all that we've ever been able to measure. That's my 2 cents here.
All right. Well, one of the first things that jumps out at me is if you're on an asteroid, you still have like the atmosphere problem that most of us as flat earthers, we've studied this. We've, argued with globalists about how if we have air pressure, if we have a volume of air that we breathe here up against the vacuum of empty space, that the atmosphere would all be sucked off. It would just dissipate off into space. There'd be nothing confining it and holding it here. And so you have the atmosphere issue if you're on an asteroid. So to overcome the atmosphere issue, then all of a sudden you would have to incorporate a dome. And then that's a whole different category of thinking. If we're on an asteroid flying through an infinite cosmos, like this one that's been taught by NASA and all the scientists, we're on an asteroid with a dome, that would have the need for a creator again in the infinite cosmos. So yeah, there's also the whole motion of the sun, the moon, and the stars. If we're on a flat plane, but it's floating out in space, then the motion of the sun and the moon and the stars, using our map, and we're going to get into that, you're going to see that, it's a little distorted. You'll see what we did to straighten out the map. So the Satanists always turn things crooked, flip it upside down, backwards, or whatever. And you just have to have done enough research to know what you're looking for in order to straighten it out. And we can show you the reason why we have the map oriented the way we do. We can reorient it some other way if you want to, but it's the way that makes the most sense to look at it. But to use the Hotan oblique Mercator like we've been promoting on the top surface of an asteroid like that, it would still have to have a circling sun and moon going over the face of it, like the AE map and model does. If we're going to think about this from a physical reality standpoint, the type that we've all been indoctrinated into, from school, from the religions, all the sciences, they teach us about this physical reality that's based on atoms and atomism, which really comes from an ancient Greek philosophy. And so just like on the macro level, where NASA gives us pictures going off into outer space, we see these nebulas and quasars and pulsars and super galaxies and clusters and all this kind of stuff. And that's all CGI. Well, then down on the micro level as well, everything goes to CGI as well. You just see pictures of dots and they tell you that they're atoms and that they have no mass, yet they hold together. And so we're all empty space, yet when we slam our finger in a door or something, it hurts like crazy. So there's contradictions both directions. And well, where do you want to take the conversation?
It's well said. Science tries to teach that, like the macro, the infinite, the space between the stars, they do tell you that on the micro level, when they supposedly drill in with these super microscopes, that the same amount of distance, the power, maybe it's 10 to the 4 or whatever the mathematical equation is, they try to tell you it's the same. And what they really won't tell you is that you're living in a simulation that was created by the God of the Bible. So he's the one who created this place, and I guess I can jump right into it.
Yeah.
So we'll start off with the documentary. And again, super thank you to all the members at DACA and Ziggurats. I don't know if I got that right, Dakala, but they're Brazilian. We super thank you. So we'll get this going here. I'm going to turn my camera off for bandwidth then.
Urandir and the researchers from Dakila and the Ziggurats Technological Center evaluated all possibilities for the realization of the scientific experiments in order to find proofs that determined the real shape of the Earth.
We did dozens of experiments. We will only present 7, as it was enough to determine the real shape of the planet. We use the methodology of Lilarial science because the results are much more precise.
So that's how it starts off. They've said that they've done a bunch of experiments. Do you want to add anything so far, Jay?
No, go ahead.
Okay. And this is quick.
Most of our research was done in the waters because it makes up 70% of the planet's surface.
The first chosen experiment was to determine the curvature of the horizon at water level.
Let's record one of the main tests on the sphericity of the Earth. And this test with respect to the masts of the ships, the distance that it is away from the coast, precisely to know if there is sphericity, if there is angulation in the Earth. The lower the humidity in the air, the further we can see. And the higher the humidity, the more distortions occur in our view. So the place...
Okay, so what they're saying here is they're going to do an experiment.
Is to be chosen to...
They're going to watch a ship sail out over the sea, and they're going to try to look at it with like high-powered magnifying tools, like this, like basically telescopes, right? You want to comment, Jay?
No, that's good.
We already know that the perspective and how it works. You can check that out on my channel, Flat Earth Perspective. But I think this is still a great experiment. So that's what they're going to do for that. That's the first one they explain. They're going to drive out in a boat, and one of the boats is going to have. Well, here I'll keep playing here. One sec.
We brought a Newtonian telescope. We were also using a total station.
So that's that part, right? So they're going to look and they're going to measure. Here's another one. Here's the next experiment.
Another experiment was carried out using radio waves. Teams were separated at a distance of 14 kilometers on opposite sides of the lagoon.
Using the radio equipment, we use directional antennas at high frequency, parabolic antennas that concentrate the radio frequency beam, one directed to the other at different points.
So what would you call that, Jay? Would you call that peer-to-peer? Or direct?
Point to point. So it's not that uncommon of a technology. You'll see this on the tops of a lot of commercial buildings. You can do high-speed communications over these point-to-point radio setups like this. Yes, as long as you have line of sight, you can connect up to towers. You see these types of dishes on lots of the big antenna towers, rooftops, all over the place.
Yep, I agree. That's well said. So here's the next one.
Another performed experiment was to measure the flatness of the waters with the use of light. The researchers opted for the use of a laser beam because its beam of light propagates in a linear way and can reach long distances with minimal loss of potency.
So that's not quite true. Basically, the laser experiment is not measurable. It becomes, can you see the laser, and does it flash in your eyes like this from a certain distance, right?
Yeah. Well, when it comes to lasers and stuff, I'm highly skeptical. I have not myself seen a laser go super long distance. So when it comes to these laser tests, I would like to be a part of it. I'd like to do it. I would like to be a part of one of these teams.
Yeah, well, however far they are here, whatever distance this is, that laser is definitely casting a lens flare. So it's definitely hitting the lens of the camera. I will admit that. I don't think you could measure where the center of this would be, but it's definitely visible. So if they're like 12 miles away, it would be 30 feet up in the air, right? Or not even 12, 8 miles. So, this seems to be a pretty good. So we're just going through the experiments, and so everybody knows, then they give the conclusions soon. Did you want to go on with anything else about that?
No, that's good.
So here's that interesting building experiment that I was explaining before we started here. So check this out, everybody. This is pretty interesting.
An unprecedented experiment developed by the researchers was to measure the geodesic curvature between two buildings over a long distance using high-precision GPS.
Considering the round planet, you have to mark a point from one extreme to the other, from a certain distance, precisely to prove mathematically whether the Earth is round or not. So we got two cities, far away. We take two buildings, one in a city in the south and one in a city in the north. This one in the south and this one in the north. What happens? If we measure this distance here at the base of the buildings, if the Earth is really spherical, when we measure buildings of the same height, when measuring the top, there has to be a difference, because if the Earth is spherical, it must have a superior length than the base.
So I did the math on this, and it was the two cities. It was roughly 31 degrees should have been the two buildings declination. So they're measuring declination here. And again, that's for every 60 miles, it's half a degree of declination. So what do you think of that experiment, Jay?
Yeah, so I got through like hearing these different experiments, and out of all of them, with me having been in construction my entire life, having used simple transits, I've never used any of these workstations that they have here, but I understand all the concepts. If you can use a regular optical transit, these are just more high tech, more accurate. You know, you get digital readouts and you can align them with GPS and stuff like that. But I know for sure that the systems that they have in place, they can be super, super accurate. Like they said, over this distance, I think down to like a couple centimeters. And so I love a construction job site type experiment like this. And the whole logic of the thing is super simple. This is really my favorite proof out of all of them. If I were to do an experiment other than the water level, this is one I would like to do.
Yeah, I never even thought of it. Like I said, when I found the experiment in the video this morning, I was like, oh, this is a great experiment to use the. So basically, 5G coming, you could probably put a sticker with a RFID frequency on the side of the building at the top and the side of the building at the bottom, and then put those two stickers on the other building. And this 5G would give you probably, down to the millimeter. I don't know. I'm just assuming, but it's a great experiment. I really like that one.
That's super good.
To carry out the last experiments, the researchers invited the consulted specialists at the start of the research to accompany and participate in the tests. Paulo Cesar Parra, civil engineer and geotechnical engineer, and a specialist in dam projects.
It's difficult. As an engineer, and I deal with the exact sciences. We carry this from childhood with these concepts. It is difficult to have another insight of this reality that we have since childhood.
Mauro Diaz, geographer and cartographer, specializing in aerophotogrammetry.
So the map that Jason and I use, the Hotine Oblique Mercator, is said to be, aerophotographed, right? Whether it be a high altitude plane or a balloon, or whatever you might think of as a satellite that actually, scanned the earth and created the map that we use. So this would be the guy that I guess would work with that system. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're told by the map maker, the Hotine, that we've been promoting, that it is the most accurate 2D representation of Earth available. Okay, so that means if Earth is flat, it's the true map of this world. It's just the globe people that say, oh no, we're on a globe, and so it cannot project accurately to a 2D map. But if we're on a flat plane, then the map actually has to be a 2D flat map. And we've already been told that this is the most accurate map of Earth out there. And we found this, and we've tested it so many different ways, and it's been out there for over a year, and nobody's been able to refute it at all.
Yeah, like here it even says the result is a uniquely visually interesting flat map of the world that exhibits nearly no distortion in the most familiar areas, even at the poles. Okay, so when I take you back to the documentary, if you look carefully, this is the map, people. This is the map that they're using. And after we're done, we're going to explain to you exactly how you orientate this map so that you can make sense of it the way that we've been taught cartography, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll go back. But yeah, it's going to be great. Okay, here we go. So those were the tests. I think there was one more test. I can keep this going.
Okay.
As is known by all mankind, the Earth has a spherical shape. And for me as a geographer and cartographer, it is difficult to accept that the Earth would not be a sphere.
In Minas Gerais, Brazil, the researchers performed the experiment of the geodesic curvature in the waters, accompanied by the guests.
We are here in the reservoir of the Trey Murray hydroelectric plant. We have the complete team. We are going to start the verification of the horizontality of the water here in the reservoir. It is a large reservoir. We are in a stretch that will give us up to 18 kilometers. The test aims, in other words, the following. The dam has a certain level. If the leveled GPS measures give the same, this means that there is no curvature of the Earth. If the measurements are different, then this means that there really exists an Earth curvature in relation to sea level. We are with a geodetic GPS already installed here. The surveyor is now going to another point, taking another point to start a triangulation, thus verifying, through this process, verifying the horizontality of the water. This first point in the elevation in relation to the sea level is of 556 meters altitude, so we're going to hit more than 3 points. This equipment, the geodetic GPS, we have two devices. One installed here to get this point, and the other goes to the other points. We get 3 points, all at the water level, and check the level of that point. The accuracy of this equipment for this distance, a distance of 10 to 20 kilometers, is around a few centimeters.
So that's the last experiment, which I think is just great. So they're going to make a triangle and they're going to use geodetic surveying equipment with GPS positioning to measure the height of the water in 3 places, right?
Yeah. It's fantastic. It's an obvious experiment, right?
Lake Titicaca is where they did it. Borders on Peru and Bolivia, right? And
they had ideal weather conditions for it too, right?
Yeah, no humidity, right? That was a different experiment, but same on the same area. And it was is this lake? Yeah, I think it was. This was the dam, right? But it might be a man-made lake. I don't know. We'll get into it, but it's incredible the way that they went about these experiments. They're perfect. Is there anybody in the chat saying anything here?
It's a nice chat. Nothing in particular right now.
Okay, I'll keep it going then and get to the results.
To what conclusion did the researchers arrive in relation to the experiments with ships? The researchers realized that after some time looking at the boats with the naked eye, they began to disappear on the horizon. First, the hull, then it was no longer possible to see the boat, and finally, the mast lowered until it disappeared completely, as the spherical Earth theory explains.
Watching the boats with the naked eye, the initial impression is that they were disappearing, as if descending behind the horizon line.
When the boats reached a certain distance, it was no longer possible to see them with the naked eye.
For a moment, we were a little frustrated to be in the place to prove the sphericity of the air, as with a naked eye, we could easily come to that conclusion.
Does this mean that the Earth is even spherical? With the loss of eye contact, it's time for the team to use optical instruments in an attempt to still see the boats. If the boats are still visible through the equipment, it's proof that they have not traveled below the horizon. And to everyone's surprise, the boats were still there, visible. The researchers realized that the images of the equipment presented some optical phenomena.
So that's, did you want to comment?
Well, there's just that one issue that I talked about as far as there's the hump that I saw there, if you would want to cover that.
Yeah, you can address that now. They show it in a couple clever ways here. I give them credit for when they show the animation of the flat Earth. They actually put the actual ocean. Then it's like, here's the animation. So go ahead.
Yeah. So this is something that I had to address in the flat Earth river proof that I did. And that is oftentimes we're shown this side representation here where a lot of flat earthers will talk about some sort of hump between you and some other parties. So you see these two ships here, and they'll talk about a hump of water that would be between you two, but that's really not, it's not the correct orientation. And we can argue about it, but just listen, hear me out. For the flat earth river proof, I was looking at it from two different perspectives. One, my house here on the river looking towards where it empties into the Gulf of Mexico. And then I was also looking at it from the perspective of where the river empties into the mouth of the Gulf of Mexico, looking back towards my house. So in both of those situations, the whole globe Earth paradigm always has you oriented on the top. You're on the top of the ball. So if I'm at sea level and I'm looking back towards my house, I'm at like the highest point on Earth from my perspective. And as I would look out towards my house, Earth would be curving down and away from me. So really technically, if you're at sea level looking out over the ocean, out in front of you, there is no water higher than you. It's all curving down and away from you. And the horizon should not rise to your eye level. The horizon should be down at your feet level. You would actually have to lay down on the ground and look right at water level to have the water up at eye level. So it's just something that, as researchers, I think it's important for us to keep the orientation correct when we're talking about curvature, that we're always at the highest point and that it should be dropping off as you go any direction, 360 degrees around you, should be dropping off.
Well, the land does rise.
Yeah, well, elevation above sea level. So I guess pick a ideal situation where you're on an island out in the ocean that is just like 1 foot above sea level. And then from that perspective, in all directions around you, the water should be lower than your eyes.
Like you have it depicted in your drawings in this video, right? Like you did an excellent job for sure. I totally get it too. When we're positioning ourselves with the globe Earth spherical model, you always have to be positioned on the top because they don't believe their model is relative. There is no up or down. And that's one of the reasons how we disprove the false model and show you that you live on a flat two-dimensional, Earth with the heavens wrapping around us. And Jason, you were the one that said it most beautiful, that the creator, how you go ahead and say it. How were we created?
I'm not sure what you're alluding to right now.
Well, on the earth, walking around, we don't feel like there's an edge. It was created to appear like we were wrapped around. So giving you a false sense of a spherical type of, maybe the outer, maybe heaven is spherical. We haven't decided. We don't know, but it's a flat earth that we walk upon, but it feels and looks when you look to the sky like you're designed on a globe. But the great thing is that there's no proof of no curvature.
Yeah, well, that is an interesting thing when you look into this real closely and you see what map the creator used for this world. That Houghton oblique Mercator, by using that map, and the coordinate systems, as far as the sunrise, sunset angles, what it does is Satan's system has they've done all the calculations, and so it appears like the sun is 93 million miles away. It appears like the moon is 235,000 miles away. The orbits that the scientists have calculated are based on these paths, and you can see that by design, this world, even though it's flat, we know it's flat. This documentary proves that it's flat. The tests have been done. There's no curvature. We can tell by looking at this map and the way it works that this world by design was to appear like we are on a globe in space. So
the magnetics, right? The way that these lines as well, the longitude and latitude lines, as well as your equator, all of this here makes it feel as if you are being wrapped around. But it's amazing because all of the tests and how this map is designed is how it looks on the flat plane, right? And people would say, oh, look at these crazy distortions, and actually when you start to do the research, it makes a lot more sense when you know that Alaska is an American place, and Russia's actually giving away free land. Anyone in the world can move to this area here. Russia offered it last year. You can back check my research if you don't believe me. So, and it's amazing because the documentary uses the same map, right?
Yeah, I can't wait until we get into that.
Yeah, we'll get there. Okay, so I'll go back to it.
Among the long-distance viewing experiments performed with telescopes, the one with the greatest impact was at Lake Titicaca, where the team tried to record images at 110 kilometers. The site was chosen due to the low humidity of the air at certain times of the year, which is a prime factor for the result.
We are talking here with a boatman of the boat May 3. He is an inhabitant of the island of the Uros. He is from the Aymara civilization. Is it possible to see the other side of the margin, or is this not possible?
Yes, it is possible. Always because our lake, we think, is like a table.
How many kilometers do you see?
I can see almost 60 or 50 kilometers.
Normal, no binoculars, nothing?
Yes, normal, without binoculars.
With the telescope, the team was able to record images at a distance of more than 100 kilometers.
So, that's the mountains. I don't know if it's Bolivia or Peru that they're looking at, but I think it's still a great piece of evidence that they were able to cite, what looks like close to the shore. Not the super best evidence, but I still like it. What do you think, Jay?
Well, like I said, I've got to go through this whole thing more, but you've gone through it and you put your critical eye to it, so you're a little leery about it, but so far it looks good, and we're always ready to double check and verify any of this stuff. But
so like I told you, when I lived out in Alberta and Calgary, you could see, I don't know if it was only 40 kilometers or 40 miles. This is 100 kilometers, I think he said. So the fact that you're seeing that much, I guarantee if we were to do the measurement, you're probably only supposed to see the tops of these hills, right? But you can see the whole hill, just like in BC. But you can't. It just looks like a faint shadow on the horizon, though, by your bare eye. So not bad proof. What do you think?
Not bad. Not bad.
It's a pretty far area to see.
It is.
Okay, next one.
And the result of the experiment with radio waves? The researchers used directional parabolic antennas, where in the spherical Earth model, communication would be impossible, as the minimum obstacle would...
So would this be the wrong, I guess, so this should be on the top. He should be aiming down, right?
Yeah, it should be on the top and shooting out and across, and then there should be drop to the other one. There's just not a hump in the middle. It's an improper orientation. In order to look at it from this orientation, it requires a person being off in space. And what we're arguing against right now is the ability to be in space. So it's sort of an absurdity to look at it this way. You got to do it from the perspective that you as the observer witness. And yeah, we're never on the side. We're always on the top.
Yeah. It's correct. But okay, well, I'm not done.
Include this, since at the distance of the experiment, the curvature of the Earth would generate an obstacle of...
But it wouldn't be an obstacle, it would be a drop, right? It would be 384 meters below the line of sight, right? If it was a sphere. Not a hump. It would be below.
Yeah, we can double check with curvature, the curvature calculators and stuff. I haven't done all the double checking, but we do know for sure that on a globe Earth with a radius of, was it 3959, which is, less than 4,000 mile radius ball, okay, which is really, in my opinion, quite small. Tiny ball, it would require lots and lots of drop all over the place.
Lots of drop. That's correct. Well, let's finish this one.
3.84 meters in height.
We have connected.
Got it. We're with connection here. It's responding. The machine is responding.
That's pretty good. I'll give it to them. You've worked with satellite communications, or not satellite, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I did satellite internet and direct TV. I was an actual dealer for them for a while.
But now it's all triangulated with the cell towers and underwater sea cables, right?
Yeah.
But you were fooled, right? Just like everyone else, which is a great testimony.
Well, it took me a while with Flat Earth because I'd installed hundreds or thousands of dishes and aligned them. It took me a little while to get through that one, but I did the research, and I came to the realization that you don't find any place on Earth where they're pointing straight up, like, so at the equator, if the satellite's going around in a what do they call that, the path that doesn't change orientation, those are all the satellites are supposed to be over the equator. And so you don't, when you go to the equator, their dishes like DirecTV, they're not pointed straight up. or due east or due west. So it's
they're pointed at wherever the tower is strongest, right? Wherever the That's hilarious, man. And you zoomed in too and checked, right?
Oh yeah, when I went on vacation down there and I was looking for dishes being pointed
straight up.
Yeah, and I couldn't find them.
Hilarious. It's kind of like the wind blows, like, if we were on a sphere Earth and it was spinning, always the wind would be the opposite direction that the Earth would be spinning. It'd be impossible, like if you're traveling, whipping, flying through outer space, right? And the wind blows like every which way it wants in all directions all the time. So
What about the geodetic curvature experiment performed on the buildings? Measurements were done of the bases and tops of two buildings, one in Torres, Rio Grande do Sul, and another in Natal, Rio Grande do Norte, 3,050 kilometers apart from each other. According to the theory of the spherical Earth, the distance of the measurements of the bases must be different than the measurements of the top, even in a few meters. But if the measurements are equal, this would show that the Earth has no curvature. Remembering the opinion of the INCRA engineers before the experiment,
Probably there will be in relation to the extension of this line, perpendicular to the baseline. I believe it will be longer.
Thinking of the Earth as a globe, the initial expectation was that the measurements were different.
But when the results arrived, the base and the top measurements were the same, showing that the two buildings are leveled upright. And here the opening angle, where we read the point here, the base of the building and its height. As we do this calculation here, on this plane, we will always find this distance here. On this plane, we will always find this distance here.
the identical measurements of the distance between the bases and the tops prove that between the two buildings there is no curvature, proving that the Earth has no spherical shape. In the experiment of the geodesic curvature in the water, 3 points were obtained with a high-precision GPS on the Tres Marias Dam in Minas Gerais, whose extension exceeds 70,000 meters.
This first point, the elevation in relation to sea level is at 556 meters altitude.
The second point also presented the same result, 556 meters of altitude. If the third point were different, the water would be following the curvature of the Earth. If the measurements are the same, it will be proven that there is no curvature, but indeed flatness in the waters. And the measure of the third point surprised the researchers.
Here we also obtained the same measure, 556 meters at the level of the lagoon. We analyzed the data collected by the equipment, and all points show the same result, the same altitude, thus showing that the water in the dam remains level. These data overthrow the theory of sphericity, because according to this theory, the water should follow the curvature of the Earth. Only in a curve there is no level.
The three altitude measurements were identical, proving the leveling of the water, proving that the Earth has no spherical.
Unbelievable. This test right here is the final nail in the coffin for anybody watching. There was absolutely no way that you could tell me a 70,000 meter. Is that what he said? Or miles? What's the number? It's huge.
Can you rewind it?
Yeah.
I was just responding to a question in the chat. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. No problem. I saw the question. Interesting one too. But so basically this test was conclusive and it proved that there was no curvature on that lake. I don't remember the exact size, but it was a great test, right? Great experiment.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've seen comments where other people have posted this, and these are all tests that the common person that has worked construction at least to some degree in their life, these average people can go out and conduct these types of experiments and get highly conclusive results. You don't need to be a scientist with a degree from a university. Those people are teaching a false reality. They're teaching the heliocentric model and evolution and really just all the satanic nonsense in this world.
Yeah, and it's getting completely exposed here. These guys did a great job. Like I said, when we do the 3 mile water level experiment, we got to have a guy there to survey the land, and you could do it yourself, but you said to be non-partial or biased to the experiment, you would hire someone else to shoot our lines. And that's what they've done here. Not only with, but I really enjoy how they brought the GPS in on the last experiment with the triangulation. I really thought that was just great.
I'm gonna be going through this documentary a number of times, and I want to double check and verify and do calculations. Some of the things that they've done, they didn't have the calculations done, so just add a little bit more detail. But yeah, I'm so pumped, so happy that this is out there now.
And what is the result of the laser experiments? Did the team see the laser light on the other side?
We are here in the nocturnal experiment in the Tres Marais Reservoir. We are on the shore of the lake. The positioning of the laser is here by the lake, a meter or so from the water level where the second laser is. It is also in the same position, exactly 1.5 meters from the water level of the reservoir. As you can see, the two devices are communicating at a distance of 18 kilometers. We have successfully done an experiment today, and we are proving that the Earth does not have the format that science believes it has. So as we are at 18 kilometers, there is no water level difference from here to the other crew that is 18 kilometers away. It's exactly level. On this distance, there should be a visual obstruction by virtue of the curvature of approximately 6 meters. And we were able to get the signal from a laser cannon from the other shore at 18 kilometers on a little more than a meter from the level of the lagoon. This is the ultimate test. There is no curvature.
To guarantee the accuracy of the result, the researchers decided to conduct a surprise experiment. With the team still in place, a beam of light was lit that should be visible at...
I just noticed something, ladies and gentlemen. Look carefully at this image. Everybody in the chat as well, and you as well. Let's go back. I'm not saying let's just see.
To a 3-story building.
Do you see? Yes. Down. Can you see? Yes. Down. Can you see? Can you see?
Okay, now
yes.
Now it looks better. Before it was It was a lot lighter out there. See here?
Yeah.
Team still in place. A beam of light was...
So I don't know what they were doing there, but...
Little time of day change.
With the team still in place, a beam of light was lit that should be visible at 18 kilometers on the side where the team of surveyors...
Oh, well, you know what? It could have been that we know how close the sun is. So at 18 kilometers distance apart, it might be dimmer, right? It definitely disproves the fact that the sun is 92 million miles away, because the amount of temperature and brightness that was on the, hitting the earth at a parallel line would still be hot for the, at 18 kilometers away, right?
Yeah, well, I don't know what we're seeing right now on the screen. So this guy with I don't know, that might be the total station there. That's darker now. So they just may have been set up earlier in the day and then waited to take their readings at dusk, where they could flash the light on that pole, and it would be easier for them to spot over that distance.
I think you're correct.
Who used a total station. At that distance, the Earth curvature would have risen 6.3 meters, equivalent to a 3-story building.
Do you see? Yes. Down. Can you see? Yes. Down. Can you see? Can you see? Yes. I am at water level. At water level. So, okay. I will write down and you read the angles and the coordinates. There you take that height where it was blinking at the water level. It's on water level. But on how many meters high? 0. It's blinking in the water, right? It's in the water. 10 centimeters from the water. Okay, so I'm going to write down the angle here. Wait, Wilson.
During the experiment, a laser was added without warning the topographers.
Do you see any other light? I see it. I did see. I saw a laser now. He did see. He saw the laser. It die off. Lower the laser. All right, wait.
That reminds me exactly of Jared's experiment, right? That's what it looked like. He did over like 4 miles, I think it was, or 3. But
wait a minute, Wilson.
So if the Earth was a ball, is that 18 kilometers, eh? Wow. That's great.
Yeah.
I saw the laser. Did you see the laser? Not now. I saw the laser there. Lower a little bit. Do you see the light still? I see the laser there. Do you see the light still? I see the laser there. That's good. Just a minute. Urandir, what's going on here? Dude, it's over. It's done. At the water level. It was there at 2 meters and something. Well, now it's ruined. Now, so anything else needs to be done. We can go, right? We are with a telescope. We have a precision level, an optical level, with a topographer. We have a total station, which is a topography equipment that is used for measurements and level determination. So we are here 18 kilometers marked with a GPS on an island, on a point of Lagoa, 18 kilometers from the topography equipment there with the crew. So we put a light beam, and then the topography equipment can see the light at water level. The light placed on the water level can be visualized by the topography equipment that is positioned 18 kilometers.
and the engineer remained perplexed by the outcome of the experiment.
We can go, right?
This is unquestionable proof that the Earth is not a sphere, for the waters are level. And the result of the laser experiment carried out at Lake Titicaca.
It is hitting the hill on the hill. Look over there. It is hitting a tree above us here. Look at theirs. Look at theirs. Are you pointing yours too? We're seeing. We see yours. It's just too high. It's very high. Look there. You saw. In this direction. It made it. There, it appeared again. Go. There, it made it again. That's it. Stop there. More to the left. Stop there. Stop. Through light here. It is illuminating here. It is moving there too. Here it is illuminating everything. We have already done the first tests, and the laser of team number 1 has already appeared here in the treetops that are on our side. Then the trees here have about 2 meters, 2.5 meters. So there we start directly discarding the hypothesis of the Earth being spherical. Because we are 35 kilometers away from team number 1 in a straight line from end to end, on the lake, on lake level. And according to the theory of spherical Earth, that 35 kilometers should give at least 23 meters and 98 centimeters of Earth's curvature. So a light communication would be impossible as we just have had. The result was positive here. We could see the laser on the other team there, and they could see us too. More than 30 kilometers, so there was no curvature. Total flatness. The research here was excellent.
So what do you think, Jay?
I was in the chats again.
Well, I'll say I definitely would have to be with them during a laser experiment. I like the geodetic surveying a lot better, measuring the 3 points. But hey, laser tests along waterline, it's always great, right?
Yeah, people seem to like think that lasers are super awesome. I mean, they're cool and all, but you're a construction guy that's worked on commercial job sites, and you're familiar with high-powered lasers, you know, commercial grade ones for setting up job sites, and generally, how long are they good for?
100 meters tops.
Yeah, so I'm not saying that there's not lasers that can't go super long distances, but I'm skeptical of them. I'd like to use them, be a part of the experiments, and see just how accurate they can be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally know. So I know exactly what you mean. They do work, you know, for short distances, but still we can keep going here. I still like what they did, and I support them, but there definitely needs to be more work put into what they did, and check out their numbers and things like this, right?
Yeah, and Spaces Water, they modded the lasers and used a cluster of them, and I get that. I did see that part of the documentary. Sounds great. I'd like to see how it works and what its maximum distance and all that kind of stuff is. Mm-hmm. It'd be great.
Totally.
In the experiment of the geodesic curvature in the water...
Did I play this? Sorry, I might have
grabbed so.
I think I played another repeat. It happens, right?
Yeah.
I think I played that one too. Here, let's watch.
What would Earth be like? The first sight, the Earth is absolutely flat. But this plane goes where? Is it square? Is it a circle?
Looking from above, the impression you have is that the Earth is flat.
Scientists of the past had only the eyes to observe and the reasoning to create possibilities. The older ancients used a model of the flat Earth, square Earth, triangular, and geoid. Later, other scientists defined the most suitable model would be spherical, geoid, putting a stake at one point and another at 800 kilometers. But he did not take into account the altitude, had no GPS, had nothing. So, there is really no way how these ideas, with the technology of today, can be considered, because everything we have today overthrows these theories. Any experiment today can prove that the globe doesn't exist. It's impossible.
But then, how can we determine the real shape of the planet? The CTZ researchers collected information on the movement of the sun, the moon, and the stars in different parts of the planet. In this research, which lasted several years, images were recorded by cameras installed in all these places during the day and at night.
We found several differences in the trajectory of the sun. One of the most significant was between Australia and Argentina, which are in the same tropic.
While in Argentina, the sun moves at about 180 degrees. In Australia, it moves almost 270 degrees, which would be impossible in a spherical Earth model. Another significant example was in the Canary Islands, where a time-lapse of the stars showed a circular movement incompatible with the spherical model of the Earth.
This movement would only be justified if the place were near the poles in a spherical Earth, which is not the case.
We do not understand that with so many discrepancies we have found, and with the technology available today, no researcher, no scientist, no astronomer, no space agency in the world has perceived any of this.
I'm going to have to throw a red flag right there. Some of these webcams are as well ones that Jason and I put out over a year ago. And they were stating that the sun's movement was different in those two different places, but there's going to be there's a little bit of misinfo here. Did you want to add anything, Jay, before I keep going?
No, I mean, that's what we're going to be doing with this documentary for a while now, is just going through and continually pointing out all the things that we know are true, and also pointing out the things where we know that there's something that's not right, or we can fill in blanks on something that maybe they just didn't know about yet. So yeah, the jump of the sun at the real high north latitudes or real far south latitudes, there's a jump. So
yeah,
the globe Earth and the popular AE map model would require a 24-hour up all day sun for like 50 days.
50 days, that's right.
And in the north, you know, the popular AE map model wouldn't want to have one of those in the southern hemisphere, but what we've done is we just wanted to find the evidence of this 24-hour up all day sun, and there isn't any. There's just like a handful, maybe 5 or 6. They've added a couple new ones recently, like we might have the 7th or 8th CGI of a 24-hour up all day sun, but no actual
none.
No. So
fake in the north and the south.
So it's not that our model that we're promoting requires one or doesn't require one. We're just saying there isn't one because there's no evidence of it taking place in reality.
Yeah. If someone could verify that, which we've been asking for over a year, it should be easy for someone living in the Arctic circles. you know, to to take a picture once an hour for 35 hours with a compass and where the sun is. It's super easy to snap a shot once an hour. You know, you might lose a bit of sleep, but you could sleep in between hours, you know, or you could maybe even set it up with some type of photography camera switch or something, and just give us that proof, because we don't have it yet. And this is 2018. We believe the sun always has a rise and a set for everywhere on Earth. Just depends.
Yeah, but at the higher latitudes, both north and south, you're going to have 24 hours of daylight. The sun barely sets. It just goes down for a little bit, and then there's a jump, and then it comes back up again. It stays bright out. It doesn't go dark like a normal night.
Beautiful colors, actually. It's said to be beautiful colors. But you're right. There's no up in the air visible sun for 50 days straight, and then 50 days of darkness, right? Isn't that what they say next?
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah.
I'll keep going here.
The discrepancy in the comparison of the trajectory of the sun and the stars between the different points when related to its geographical position in the current...
This right here is your Fairbanks, Alaska. This is some of the best area in the world to watch from this street corner, the actual jump. You see the way that the sun comes from the east to the west, and then it goes dark for a couple of seconds, and then bam, it's back up in the east again.
World map allowed to generate a new geographical model of the continent.
Right there. Well, they went small screened on it, but
in this model, the continents present a size and position somewhat different from the current world map, having the North Pole to the center and the other continent.
So they've skewed the Hotine. This is the Hotine, but they've skewed it, it looks like.
It's around
they've got better quality.
It's called convex Earth.
Yeah, here we go.
We call it convex Earth because the continents have a convex relief, starting at the sea level, racing to the highest point, and returning to the sea level.
Which I can agree to that. I can say that that's true.
Yeah, we've always, I think the majority of flat earthers have just referred to that before as topography. Positive, above sea level topography, and then you could have topography in below the water, the sea floor. It's got undulations to it.
That's right. It goes down.
To say Earth is flat, I don't think anybody really thinks that we're saying that there's no mountains and no hills or anything.
Well, yeah, we started off by explaining that it's 8 miles down and 8 miles up, right? So, and then it goes up and down from the waters, right? Mm-hmm. It's biblical. It's in Genesis. So if anybody doesn't know how that was created and how it was, it's right there. Should I keep going?
Yeah.
According to altimetric analyses, all the continents present a convexity in their relief.
I can say that they probably might. I know that the North American, it's very, very minimal convexity because they're the Great Plains, right?
Well, there's mountain ranges and stuff too.
Yeah, after the mountain range, it's a plain right across the entire North American continent, right? You know that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out whether or not convex Earth conveys the message that I would want to promote, because we had the concave Earth, right?
Yeah.
With there's a couple wild ones that were running the concave Earth, and so then there's flat Earth, which is what most of us researchers have used the label, and then convex would be like a contact lens, and that to me is like bordering on spherical talk again.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't agree with the asteroid spherical talk. It's flat, and the land rises out of the water and rises back and descends to the water. And it does it in a bunch of spots throughout the map. And that's what I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll keep going. I do find this outer area interesting as well, ladies and gentlemen. If you've noticed, their model has more land.
Yeah, I want to check that out.
Yeah.
According to the investigations, in the convex Earth, the magnetic field has the following layout, with the magnetic North Pole located in approximately the middle of the planet.
So you notice that's when I pull up our map, it's exactly right here, right? This is where they've put their North Pole, right? And they've shifted the map over, but just so people can see, it is the same map, right? Just so you know.
Well, the one that you're showing of ours, we did split Antarctica, and we have a reason for that. If you could show the one from the website again, the way
the original, yeah, sure.
Like I had said, they like to hide the truth in plain sight, and
right here, this is the map.
There it is.
But they've got Antarctica or Australia over here, I believe. Like I said, they've just twisted it a little bit off kilter, right? Australia, where's Australia? Is it over here? They don't have that correct on this map.
No, I think they've got it. If you compare that against the oh no, I think they may have taken Australia and shoved that into the undiscovered land. See, it looks like they took Australia and shoved it over the wall into the other area.
Oh, maybe. I didn't see it that way, but it's saying maybe this is Australia.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Due to the magnetic field, anywhere on the surface of the planet, a compass will always point to the North Pole, as the South Pole represents its entire border.
No, that's not right.
Yeah, that's not right.
So, but we'll get into that after.
Magnetic field is also responsible for modeling the shape of our atmosphere, which takes the form of a plane convex lens.
Oh, and this isn't right either. This is completely speculation. There's absolutely zero evidence to say that there's this dome they've put on top of this asteroid. This is wrong.
Yeah, it doesn't work when we can prove that
this is west.
That you can't have the South Pole all the way around the perimeter like that. That makes it impossible.
This is where my pointer is. This is east. Sun comes down through here, and this is west. Okay, this is north, and this is south. So everybody knows that. We've taught that enough. The sun rises in the east, sets in the west. Antarctica is south, right? And Australia should be right here, but we'll get to that. This is incorrect.
You can't have south in all directions.
No, it doesn't work, but you wouldn't be able to navigate, but we'll just move ahead here.
Sure.
We launched several atmospheric probes, and we noticed that the images recorded in the upper layers of the atmosphere begin to show a certain curve after a certain height. This occurs in the high layers of the atmosphere, above the stratosphere, that is. In an airplane window, you would not notice this curvature. We observed that this effect does not occur due to the supposed curvature of the planet, but due to two factors. The first, due to the large flat convex lens of our atmosphere, and the second, according to the theory of curvature of light.
Oh no. This is where we hit a problem.
Yeah.
So they're bringing in Einsteinian universe proofs to an asteroid. This is a huge problem.
Well, and then they're also acting like space is real. And then this is what so many flat earthers have spent years disproving. For the longest time, we looked at all the rocket launches, the space shuttles, we saw that the ISS was fake. The research that we've done as flat earthers, we as a community are in agreement that NASA and all the other space agencies have been hoaxing us, and that space is fake, that it's science fiction, and that it wasn't until about the late 1800s that science fiction writers began even coming up with the concept of being able to travel out into space. It's just something that we've been indoctrinated into for a long time, and maybe these guys just haven't been able to break that paradigm yet. But it's real simple. If they've got 3D modeling here, the orientation of the way the sun would have to be traveling over this in order for us to have our sunrises and sunsets, it doesn't work. And that's the reason why they had the South Pole in all directions around it. You run into a hard, fast problem when you're using the Hotine oblique Mercator, where it doesn't work in the physical reality that we've been taught. It has to be in some sort of simulated world. And that's what we've been saying from the get-go, because we have all these other evidences that we're in a simulated world. It's not just one. So we have all these other things that we look to for proofs, and then you look at the map and understand that doesn't work in the physical reality that we've been told. You actually have to be able to go across one edge of the map and come out the other in order for this to work.
Well, it has to be orientated the way we have it here. So when we go into it, so this was the map that they're using here. They've just removed Australia, I think, in their video. But the problem is that you have to orientate it, like Jason was saying, so that you can get the trajectory and the path of the sun. So basically what you have to do is you have to split Antarctica to east and west, just the way that it's actually labeled on the maps, correct?
Yeah, well, if you click on the CS Pierce there, yep. This was the first iteration that we had come across while we were looking for a stereographical map, and we wrapped this onto a sphere in Blender, a 3D modeling program, and it wraps right on the ball, like all these curved lines. When you put that on a sphere, that looks like the globe that we're familiar with. And you see how Antarctica is split. One half's on one side, one half's on the other, but that comes together in one continent when you 3D model this up. So
like this, it comes back like this on a spherical shape model, right? Mm-hmm. From a 2-dimensional image. I wish I had the Blender program up and did it, but it'll probably crash the stream. But so we had this piece of information that we found before we found the oblique, the Hotine, right?
But it just makes sense to split the map and look at it in this orientation, because what it does is it puts the prime meridian right in the middle. So the CS Pierce, this one has it twisted just a little bit, but if you go to like the map of the elect, that one, you see, this is when you take that other one where it's all twisted, and you twist it out so that the prime meridian's at a 90-degree angle there. And the map is split evenly, so that's the 12-hour mark. So the day begins over on the right-hand side, and then it's right there. You got the prime meridian, and then it ends on the left-hand side, and then when it starts on the right-hand side again, that's the beginning of a new day. So
yes. That's correct. These people are all a day ahead of us when the sun goes by. We can end it off with a little bit of I'll play the modeling that we created, over a year ago to explain to people how the sun, the moon, the stars, and everything worked on a macro scale. You've worked on a micro scale as well, and people can search this out. But this is something that they almost got correct in that last bit of research that they did. So they have used the Hotine, but they just, they don't quite they need a little bit more research on how the mechanics and motions of the heavenly bodies really work, which we've put that time in, and we've laid it all down with our channel. And it needs north and east and the south and the west. People, the pyramids were built aligned to the northeast, southwest, everything, all the ley lines, everything that you always hear that these so-called masons or these new world order builders, everything is aligned northeast, southwest. It's never changed. The pyramids, it totally disproves the fact that the pyramids are 30,000 years ago and that the poles have shifted, because the pyramids today are still lined up exactly northeast, south, and west. This is the way that it works. The heavenly bodies move from east to west above our heads, and you can measure this from anywhere on earth, on this flat earth. But they do have, and I do know in Enoch it speaks about land beyond the ice. I know it said there's a place where there's warm wind, or this even could be a type of Eden reference. So it's great that they put out different concepts, but we are not in some sort of cosmos or outer space here.
Yeah, floating around on an asteroid. And then you get back into the whole issue of gravity and, atmosphere and all of that. And then the paths of the sun and the moon and the stars. If you're on one side of an asteroid, in order to get the paths of the sun, moon, and stars on that flat surface, it's not going to work in a big cosmos type event. What we've seen is that this all happens within a person's circle of sight, which, if you're on flat ground, is about 3 miles. There's more research to be done, but in this 3 to 20 mile range, based on our elevation and our view conditions, that's where all these angles are being rendered to us from the whole sunrise to the whole sunset. And we're seeing things like clouds behind the sun when we're filming sunrises and sunsets with high-powered zooms. So we can see the locality of the sun. We can see that when it's in these big white poofy clouds, that all the crepuscular rays are they're pointing right back to that sun right there in that cloud in our circle of sight. So we have all these other evidences of being in a simulation.
Mm-hmm. Well, and and the other thing that I wanted to tell everybody that I spotted was there was a little bit of, in my opinion, all map builders, except for Jason and I, because we have been completely unbiased in our research towards the true map and reality of our Earth, except for we believe that the Holy Word of God is the script of this Bible creation simulation. But they've shrunk North and South America hugely. They've distorted this way off Russia and South America and put what looks like Australia here. I don't know if they've done this for copyright reasons, but this is completely debunkable. We can disprove that this isn't the layout.
Well, they've got it much better in other places.
Yeah, I just wanted to point that out.
Defining the real shape of the Earth was no easy task. But during research, we realized that the most difficult was yet to come. We realized that the sun brings forth many anomalies, its trajectory, the sunrise and sunset. We installed equipment in several countries in different parts of the planet. And all these equipments recorded different situations, anomalies that made us think, rethink, about trajectory, and about what we learned about the Sun. Its size, its distance to Earth does not match what we learn. It does not coincide the realities of the facts. It is an anomalous trajectory, totally different. It implies strong evidence that the Sun is not a star the way we learn. It seems that it is much closer to the Earth than we think. Moreover, its trajectory is totally different. In several points, in several continents, the trajectory does not coincide with the reality, mainly in Australia and the Canary Islands. For example, in Australia, it rises and sets almost in the same place.
So that's disinfo. Its rise and set changes throughout the year between the tropics, right? And the fact that in the winter, our winter, their summer in the south, the sun rises south of the equator and sets south, west and east. So therefore doing a completely counterclockwise rotation below the shape of the earth, right? You want to touch on that, Jay?
I'm doing a little commenting right now.
Okay, maybe I'll pull up a picture here. So basically it rises from below this line and sets, going down. So basically you can map it out with our map, but not with the regular flat earth map. You see here that, they've just got it twisted and oriented wrong. But hey, they did a good job at least with a bunch of their stuff. Is there good commenting going on in the chat, or?
Just trying to answer some questions.
Okay, cool.
In Antarctica, it's totally different. Some months of the year, it stays at a fixed point, practically without moving to either side. By observing all these anomalies around the world, we realize that there is a possibility that the solar system is totally different from what we have learned.
So he was honest there, right? So I got to give him credit. He does say that he has no clue, right? So if he studies beyond flat earth in the year and a half there, he might have a better grasp of the shape and reality that we are in, right?
Yeah, it's all checked out so far. Nobody's come with any evidence that the things that we've been talking about are inaccurate in any way. They seem to be right.
Should we I guess there's a bit more. I'll play a little bit more and we'll finish this off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cartography, air navigation, maritime, fuel economy, military strategies, meteorology, climate issues, all of that changes. Everything we learned was mistaken. Now this new reality brings us the light of knowledge, a new vision of our world, a new perception of all we have learned, and the transformation in our life of our cultural affairs. The perception of the world, of knowledge, all pillars of wisdom. There is an immense transformation for all people without exception, so surely a change for the better. But what changes most is the search for the truth. That is what motivated us to carry out all this research. The thirst to know, the thirst for knowledge.
Amen. Yeah, I gotta give this guy a round of applause. That is the most beautiful thing I've heard a truther say in a long time. I don't know if he wrote it or if he said it off the top of his. Just beautiful. Like, that is what Jason and I have, is a thirst for knowledge and thirst for truth.
Yeah, it's a burning passion. You can't. The only way to quench it is to just dive in and study and look and research and test and verify, and we just want to know what's true, what is real.
Yeah. It's an amazing too. And I am going to try and see if I've got when you wrapped the UV wrap, for the sphere to the globe, or to the our map to the Earth. Yeah, here, I'm going to play this for everybody just so they can see. I'll let this play out.
Tips it over. But, you know, we're not going to give up, right?
Yeah, I just want to remind people this was back in April 8th, 2017. So I'll let this go.
Oh, no, not give up. But we were planning on spreading these videos out over a few days.
Well, yeah, there's going to be a bunch more. This is just, we're going over the entry. There still is going to be all those other the other areas. Okay, there, I've got you. Okay, I'll make that large screen back here. I'll get you presented up here soon. Sorry.
No, I did ramble on for a while. I'm not sure where I lost you when you cut out.
You were just lining up the mesh.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, the mesh is lined up. I can show you that again.
And you're live.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where you were.
So this is that mesh work. I was talking about how when I was wrapping a map, an actual map, a flat two-dimensional map, onto spheres in Blender, how the way I was taught, you put the camera view in a certain position, and you got a different grid work than this. It was just a rectangular grid work, but I forgot to adjust the angle, and when I went to do the UV unwrap, it created this mesh work, and you can see that it's got these 3 points. Now, this is really a rectangle here, because if you look at these edges, they fill in the gaps on the other side, and this right here fills in the gap on this side. Now, this meshwork really needs to be adjusted, and this is complicated and sort of goes beyond my skill set. I've come close before. This is just a real rough attempt at it right here, but this, where it all comes together here, should actually be about here with this map. This right here should be up a little bit higher. This should be up a little bit higher. But even with the mesh laid out like this, you can see here how it wraps up like a globe. And the distortions here, we've got this blue area here, blue area here. Those are right here. So this becomes the international date line on either side right here. So if you were to travel across this, that would be a change of a day like we're familiar with on a globe. That's this right back here. And you can also see that just by snapping this meshwork on, that what it does is here in Blender, it's perfect grid work. It comes together at like a true north here. Here's your vertical axes. But if you look to the side here, you can see that when you wrap this map up here, it tips it over so that the North Pole here sits at like a 23.5 degree tilt to a vertical north here. So that to me is the reason why they tell us that we're at a 23.5 degree tilt.
So that was a great demonstration, Jason. You know, we went a little bit further with it, but I just wanted to show that. And hopefully the people that are watching this documentary might want to come to understand the truth a little bit more. Did you want to explain how you did this and do a little bit of modeling before we wrap it up? We still got time. I'd love to get into a little bit of modeling, and you could explain this from your end a little bit, how we did what we did here.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that. I'd like to say to Virtual Sentinent in the chat, they say that Bob from Globebusters had a magnetic field map that resembled that. And yeah, Ronnie and
Yes,
I are
yes.
totally aware of that.
Actually, he had what we use. We call it the croquet ball map. It was a celestial coordination map to measure the stars' movements, and it is the same pattern of the UV mesh wrap that Jason was just explaining. It's the same pattern as these lines here. It snaps to this pattern, right? And this is the same map. I don't know if Blender will quit, but I can just see. I should have it here. I don't know how many I created when I got to this computer, but you know, I'm back in Ontario. I had a bunch. Maybe I have. I don't know. I'll just try and open it, see which map we have. But you know, it does work. Oh yeah, that's the stars. But yeah, you have to work with it basically to understand how it really does work. But we have done the work, and I'm going to hand you the screen share, brother, and you maybe explain why the A map doesn't work and how we came about this map if you want.
Sure. Well, I'm just gonna. I've got Photoshop open right now. Let me go ahead and get this up. So all I had done is here we got some layers. So let me take the layers off, and they're taking off the grid lines. And so here's a corner that I laid in there. Here's another corner. And now you can see another map underneath. And here's another map. And so at the very bottom, this is a map that it's a Hotine oblique that is split with Antarctica on both sides. And just out of the maps that we've been able to find, this one, it was good. It was good, but we found this other one that this one actually has those red lines outline the countries. It's a little bit higher resolution. Now, this was a map that was twisted. It originally I'm not super good with Photoshop. It takes me a long time to work in here, but this was rotated, and like you see on the website. And what I did is, like, here's a line right here. When I trimmed, let's see if I can with the annotate show people a little better. Spotlight. You can see this here. This is one of the edges. This would be like the left-hand side of the map coming up like this. And here's another edge like this. So when you trim like this corner off over here, you slap it in over here, then you end up with something like this. And the, excuse me. The grid lines all match up on here. So all I've done is, so all the latitudes and longitudes, when I cut and rotated and moved and placed, I just made sure that the latitudes and longitudes all lined up. And then I've been able to, then I can double check this against this map in the background here. So it's just a double verification that everything's lining up correctly. Because I'm not a Photoshop guy, I know that there's a lot of people out there that could do this way better than I did. There is room for improvement on it, but this is just here to show a person how the oblique Mercator, when you have it divided like this, splitting Antarctica right here. And if you look at Antarctica, look at the look at the globe, look at the world maps, they have it denoted East Antarctica and West Antarctica. They do have it split like that. And characters like Jaren they've gone to magnetic declination maps where you can move a pin around on Antarctica here, and then all of a sudden you get to a point, you'll be dragging along here, and all of a sudden it flips 180 degrees. And it's like, whoa, you know, he says there's a problem there. We've pointed it out to him so many times that that flip is indicative of this being the Hotine oblique Mercator. That's what would happen. When you would cross this line right here, and you're on this side, you would get a 180 degree flip, just boom, right there. It makes perfect sense. What else to say about this? So yeah, the path of the equator, not a straight line, right? So that's what was originally hard when looking at a map like this, was to understand that what this really does is it takes into account magnetic declination. If you take a regular rectangular like Mercator wall map, it has the North Pole and the South Pole stretched out to infinity, and then it's got all these land positions twisted around. And by twisting it, what they've had to do is create magnetic declination maps so that people can navigate correctly. With a map like this, you know, you just follow your line of latitude, and that takes you north, and then your line of longitude is your east and west. What's interesting about this map is let's just draw a line here. If you were to take a flight from, let's say, New York, let's see, how come it's not showing up as a line? Like a bigger line? Okay, there's a line. Can I make it bigger? Might be the biggest. So, let's try this one more time. So if we go from New York to, let's say, Cape Town, South Africa. This path right here, this straight line, is what you would call a dead reckoning path. And so Wolfie has put out these challenges that no flat earther can create a correct flight path. And I've rebuked him and said, I can give you a dead reckon path, and then then I can also take this. And
Jay, why don't we just for fun draw a line on both sides, or do you have an image with a line drawn on both sides? And I'll wrap it.
Will work. I can. Yeah, I can do one. Where can I do in this? Yeah, this is Photoshop. So let me do one in Photoshop here. I'll clear this off so I know what I'm doing. Grab a line. I have to get out of annotate. So let's see. We'll go from LA to Hawaii, and Oh, that's not showing up with color there. Why is that? Make a new layer.
Yeah, I almost got my UV. I almost got it all set up. I still remember how to do it. That's great.
And all right, so this is going to be a rethinking the strategy a little bit. Let's just go without the layover. Let's just go from LA to Japan. I'm just going to guess at this angle here. And let me send you this file. That's taking forever. Let's try something else.
Is it sending it? Let's see here.
I gotta almost had to do a couple things. No. All right, it's transferring the file to you in Zoom right now.
Okay, cool. I have Blender ready to go too. Should be interesting. Yeah, this is fun. This is what we.
Yeah. So how's the chat, everyone? Any questions? Jeremy L asks, is there two Antarcticas? No, not really. It would be one, the way you would imagine it to be on a globe. It would be seamless from one side to the other, but it would not be an ice ring all the way around. To sail around Antarctica would be like the same trip that you would expect on a globe. And yeah, so I mean that is an AE map and model debunk right there, that it's not going to be a 60 to 70,000 mile trip around an ice wall. Thanks for hanging out with us, Spaces Water.
Yeah, best combo one, LA to Tokyo. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let me just paste that to my desktop so I can get that figured out. Yeah, this is cool live. We can show people, because this is how we figured out what was the veracity of our truth, right? We had to model it up and put it against, reality.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see here.
Yeah, and it's a totally new concept. This isn't what we're taught in school at all. But if you're on a flat plane, like a number of us have for a while now, and and you know that the sun and moon can't be doing circles, then you got to keep looking. But I was clued into this being a simulation even before flat Earth, and so it was something that I looked at right away. And so I was looking for a stereographic map. I wanted to find what kind of map would project to a ball, and it turns out it's a map like this. And I say project to a ball because all the heliocentric believers will show us, you know, like a flight path on Google Earth and show us this great circle route and say that it works. But, you know, Ronnie's going to show us now that these flight paths do work. We'll see how close I guessed on the angles of the lines here.
They're not too bad. Here, I'll present. Here we go. So as you can see here, this is the map on the left. See how this line connects to here and this line to here. And then, so if we go to the one on the right, we can see it's a pretty much straight shot, right? How it connects both sides. There's a little bit of a stitch because the two ends aren't perfect here, right?
And that's my fault when I drew those lines on.
But as you can see, if they were a little bit more correct, you would see they'd be absolutely perfect. I don't know if I can make it better, but basically, as you can see here, this is how we dead reckon. This is how we fly, right? Jason drew, you know, pretty much a straight line from one side to the other, right? But this would be your global, like you can see Antarctica, right? This is relatively, people call it the duck. So, you know, and this is Australia, right? And then this is where you also come in at the tip of South America, right? And like I said, when you do this, it wraps the sphere almost perfectly to 23.5-degree tilt, right? Along the equator. So, I don't know if I had the croquet ball one, let me see. But yeah, here's how the stars revolve around us. Oh, this one doesn't have proper meshes. But yeah, the stars travel around like this on what could be traced back to a spherical type of, you know, motion as well.
But that path happens within our circle of sight. That's the important thing, to show people this macro view on the micro level. And Virtual Ascendant says they like the term spiritual realm better. And you know what, I tend to agree with you. Talking about this in terms of it being a realm might be better than saying it's a simulation. But we can work on defining terminology that we're comfortable with as a group. What we know, though, is that the quote-unquote physical reality that has been preached to us by scientists is a hoax. There's a lot of different ways of proving that the physical material reality that we've all thought to be the real is not.
Yeah, that's correct. I could try to wrap. Nah, I guess that was enough. But if I was to try to wrap the map that they were using, it does not work at all.
No.
That map that I just showed basically just snaps onto a sphere, no problems on the tilt. And this is how they were able to lie to us, to tell us that we were on some sort of a spinning globe. This was the great deception that it must be written about in the scriptures. I know that I'm not perfect. I'm far from perfect, but I hope tonight we were able to give everybody a different view on some of the new topics of this new flat Earth, convex Earth documentary. I hope I did my due diligence as a truther, to be honest, and to go through the evidence quickly with you all skeptically. I didn't mean to insult or insinuate anything negative. I just wanted to get what I saw was improperly done and what I saw was properly done, always the best to have Jason and his skills. Showing the way that you work that map is going to be so valuable when others catch up to what we've done here and go further beyond, because we want to lesson to let other people build up their story, their truth. And I'm just so super thankful to have tonight to share with everybody in the chat and with you, Jay. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been great. And Larry asks, how will future predictions of total solar eclipse work on this map? It's not really so much the map that you would be using in order to make these predictions. What you would want to be using is the tables as far as sunrise, sunset, and elevation angles. And you can, we'll get to the point, well, I don't know, the next big solar eclipse is going to be, total solar eclipse, I think it's going to be like 7 years. So we'll talk about it again, but it has to do with, you can take all the places along where the Great American Solar Eclipse was last year, and you can model the rise angle, the solar noon declination angle, the set angle of the sun and moon, and you can see that along that path, they all intersect, they overlap. And when that happens, then you get the total solar eclipse. But this, keep in mind, this is happening within a person's circle of sight. So it's really looking at the data and the tables to see where these alignments take place. I'm sure they've had, numerous supercomputers running on this and can find all these different occurrences pretty much anywhere on Earth. So if we had those types of resources at our hands, yes, we would be able to make those predictions same way that they do, really using the same information, but presenting it in a truthful way, instead of saying that, the sun's 93 million miles away and the moon's 235 and it just appears at the same size.
Well, they dealt with apogee and perigee with the moon in the documentary. I just didn't play that clip. Like I said, we weren't trying to bash them. We were just trying to point out some of the things that our research has shown that is completely false. The map does have to see, that's a little bit of a problem with the sun, is that mostly the sun does check out with both models, the one that we promote and the actual spherical model. Would you guys like us to, is there any questions? Would you like Jason to go into anything else dealing with the AE, the way that we know that the fake AE map doesn't work? Or have we done enough tonight? It's up to you guys in the chat and you, Jason.
Yeah. This is probably good for me. I know that we're going to be covering this regularly. We've got so many things to cover. I mean, our plate is full right now. We've got free energy, jet fuel hoax, flat Earth, simulation realization. We're going to be getting a real life community off the ground where people can be a part of this, and we're going to live off-grid style, making our own electricity, growing our own food, and doing our best to remain separate and not have to be involved in a part of this satanic world until the return of our Messiah.
Yeah, we're going to read the scriptures. We're going to live honestly. We're going to tell the truth at all times. We're going to stand upright. We're going to speak out against injustice and lies. We're starting to do wherever the Spirit leads us. We're willing to go, Jason and I. We know these are some of the most troubled times that we could imagine, and we are going to stand up and witness to the truth and fight the spiritual battle. Everyone that's watching now and everyone that watches in the future, get involved, mirror videos, send information throughout different websites and blogs and media, and we're hoping to create a forum. We want to find other ways to meet up and get more involved with the everyday people out here. This isn't just about Jason and I. We want to lessen ourselves so that others can be built up in this community. That is my goal. And,
I really feel that the forum is something that we gotta keep moving forward with, to have a repository of information that we can all go to and post our comments that's not moderated and censored the way YouTube and all the mainstream websites are. So yeah, we got to get that going too.
Yeah, totally. We're on it, and we're super thankful that everybody showed up tonight. Please stay in touch. Message me, AWAKEEPLE. That's awakeeple@gmail.com, AWAKEEPLE. And where can they reach you, Jay?
awakesouls@gmail.com.
And that's it, brother. Thank you so much for all the excellence and truth that we shared tonight. Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Huge win for Flat Earth today. This is woo! We've been working for this for a long time, and we gotta tip our hat to these guys. They came out, they laid out the evidence, and woo! Earth is flat, everyone.
Earth is flat. Great job. You heard it only
Beyond Flat Earth.